What's up, guys? Hope you're having an awesome day. So we are officially back from our trip down to Johnson Valley, California to go to King of the Hammers. And I figured this would be a good time to make a short video going over the Toyota, some of the Carnage that we got, things that did well with it, things that need improved. All right, starting with the front of this, we got some rock rash on both the hangers here. The passenger side actually started splitting apart, so we're gonna have to close that back up later. And then the armor on the axle did flawlessly. As you can see, we were bumping against rocks all along there, so I'm glad we added that. Steering on this thing did awesome. The new steering box and ram, everything there worked great. This isn't exactly how I wanted to do the steering originally. I wanted the end of the ram here to sit lower because I was trying to avoid the oil pan. It will come up and contact it at full bump. So that's why I was trying to lower it that way, but that moved the ram over and we kind of had to tilt it up to clear the U-bolts and that stuff over there. So for now, we're just gonna leave it because it's working and not moving, and I might potentially link this later. So once we do that, that would bring that back down. But steering did great in this thing. Didn't have any issues with the knuckles, breaking any arms up here. We have the ARP studs in those, so those worked great. RCVs did awesome. Glad we went with those. Really tested those out in the rocks in a couple spots where we were bound up and backing up. Fully locked, they did great. No issues there. The shocks, they did all right. They're, of course, some cheapies from like a Ford Super Duty, but they're a budget shock that has some good length. So that's why we went with those for now. Also, the shocks I wanted to run on this, I couldn't get in time before the trip. So that's why we went with these. Probably gonna change those out to a little bit longer shock, but for now it's working. And then if you remember in the past videos, we resealed the front main on this engine and it is sadly leaking again, so we're gonna have to redo that. All right, moving on to the underside here. Driveline did good. We did contact it and tear this boot a little bit there. That'll probably get removed because I doubt it'll stay on hitting it on rocks. Cross member did good. We contacted a rock pretty good on that thing. We actually, since I didn't get my TK skid plate on for the transfer case to protect that, I was kind of watching that quite often, and we ended up rolling a rock up underneath here that was like super close. So it was all lodged up in here, but it did not contact the transfer case. It was actually blowing this up. I was afraid it was gonna bend it and I was gonna have to rebend it back, but it did not. It sprung back. Exhaust did good. It's actually touching here now. One of the issues we had on our way down was the collector bolts backed out and this side fell down. So we had to get some nuts and bolt that back up. And then on the side here, rock sliders did awesome. We contacted those a whole bunch, but when I was first running the trail, I landed pretty hard on this side and it actually bent it up against the cab. So we're gonna have to bend that back down because I did not get time to put my gussets on this. So I was a little afraid of that, and of course it did bend it up. No big deal there. Rear driveline did awesome. Pretty stoked with these. I've never ran the Tom Woods drivelines, but they're holding up good so far. I really like them. They feel pretty beefy. We contacted both of them on rocks in a few spots, so no complaints there. The rear of this thing did great. Absolutely zero complaints with the setup in the back of this. The 63s did awesome. Highly recommend doing that swap. It is, of course, a common swap, so most people know about it. And then the rear diff did good with 529s and the E-locker. These shock mounts that I added did really well as also. You can see we were bouncing rocks off those things. These are another set of cheap shocks that come from like a Super Duty, and it's about perfect on the length. It has all the flex that I would like from it. So I'll probably stick to that length of shock, but upgrade them to a little bit nicer one down the road. For now, it'll work just fine. And then on the back of the axle here, everything worked good. Back here, got a little bit of rock rash on the axle, so that's staying nice and protected. And then one of the things we're going to change is we're going to eliminate this proportioning valve and just zip tie it up for now because the back brakes are not working super hot. I'd like to get a little bit more braking back there. Shackles did good. I was a little afraid at first if this was going to hit the receiver hitch, the shackles, but it did not even when fully flexed, so we are good to go there. Back bumper did awesome. It's nice and tucked up and out of the way. I think we contacted it in a couple spots here. Not too bad, no complaints there. D-rings did good. What else on this thing? The wheels did awesome. We were really rubbing those things on rocks. No complaints as far as those go. And I was checking the bolts. They were not backing off. The only thing I had to do is seat the lug nuts a little bit more on our way down. So other than that, happy with the wheels. We were definitely touching the crap out of the driver's side just because I was hugging it more when I was driving. As you can see, it's got rock rash all over it. These tires, once again, did awesome. No complaints there. We were folding these things over and rubbing them on pretty sharp rocks, and I did not tear one. I was kind of trying to just test the tires out a little bit more and see how they would do against some sharp rocks as far as durability, if they'd want to puncture, how they would act when they're completely folded over, but didn't tear any, and we put them into some pretty sticky spots. So, and the grip was actually, they did really well with the rocks down there. I have not ran the rocks or been down to Johnson Valley, so I was a little curious on how these tires would do on those rocks compared to Moab and Sand Hollow, where the rocks are a little bit stickier. But they did awesome. It was gripping just fine, and I was running between 10 and 12 psi. So, and they were brand new, so they're not really broken yet. So as far as the little Toyota goes, the thing did awesome down there. I have zero complaints. It would have been a little bit nicer to have it ride better in like the whoops and going across the desert, but not really much I can do there with it being on leaf springs unless I start linking it and putting some really nice shocks on it. So for now, we're just gonna leave it because it's done and I don't wanna pour all that money into it. It's gonna do exactly what I need. In the rocks, it did awesome. This thing, I was very, very happy with how it did. We actually, one of the trails we ran, the guys that we rolled up on that were before us were all in buggies, exo-caged in 42s and bigger. So we rolled up there, ran that trail, and we let them go ahead a little bit, and then it was me and Vinny running it. And we started running the trail. I was getting a little bit further ahead of Vinny, so I wanted to stick with the other guys in case I did break, they could help me get out. But we were able to run that entire trail with zero spotting and take all the buggy lines, and we were able to catch up with them. I really didn't have any complaints with how this thing did. It does awesome in the rocks. There's not a ton of flex in the front with how short those shocks are, so a lot of the back is doing everything, but even with the small amount of flex in the front, it did great. The tires weren't really lifting, and it just has a really nice wheelbase to where you can maneuver it around and you can get through those tight spots, especially when there's rocks that are kind of squeezing you together. And yeah, I don't know, it did awesome. Front locker, didn't have any issues with that. That was something I was a little bit worried about, how that was going to hold up just because of how it engages and disengages, but haven't broke it yet so far. We'll see how we'll see how it holds up with time. So basically, we're gonna be leaving the Toyota how it is for now. We're just gonna get that slider fixed, add some gussets, and then I wanna get some nicer shocks for this later. We still need to do our air system, a few things on the interior. I'd like to change the carpet around to where it is a vinyl flooring in it. Also, I wanna take the gauge cluster out on this and then redo the pinouts on it so I can hook up stuff from the 4.3 to the OEM dash in this. I want the tachometer to work, oil pressure, water temp. I want all that stuff to be integrated into the OEM dash. I just think it looks a little bit cleaner. So I got the pinouts or a diagram for that. We'll end up tackling that later. And then we still need to do a bunch of electrical under the hood of this thing. It is just a giant mess and I never got to that. So we'll end up doing a video series doing the electrical on that, as well as making brackets for the ECU mount and the solenoid for the winch, stuff like that. Anyways, that is gonna wrap up this video. Make sure you drop a comment down below what you think of this thing. I love this pickup. It is just awesome to drive, super photogenic, wheels good. We're gonna be putting some more miles on this thing in the snow coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, other than that, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Peace.